Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, welcome to Everything Call, episode 6. And boy, we're going to dig right in with the discussion here. And with me here on this podcast, as always, the controversial, the conservationist, the king of conversations, the one and only DJ Chaotic.
What's good, ladies and gentlemen? Popped in going, but this is going to be an interesting one. I hope y'all got your pens and paper on standby.
Now, talking about this, we're going to dig right into the first segment. I kind of feel like this is an important segment.
Yeah.
Segment 1 is the state of community and the outrage culture. Boy, we see this every time in call, especially, in eFeds, that some people can't take jokes. They cry about it. They whine about it. It's always, about them, that they need to be the center of attention, that they need to be the one and only person that, when it sums it all up, ladies and gentlemen, they can't take a joke, period. We get into the topics and categories. Are the audience getting softer or comedians just being lazy? Getting back to that question, the audience is not getting softer, nor the comedians being lazy. It's people that can't take jokes are the problem. They keep saying, it's the same old repetitive stuff. It's the same old... You guys keep doing the same old joke over and over and over. Okay, first of all, do you understand? That is a joke. And if you get offended by that, then that is your problem. That is what I call being butthurt, because you can't handle a joke. The eFed in the call community is all about jokes. We pretty much are here to escape the reality of the world, and we are trying to do the best we can by doing so, by joking around and getting our mind off of the things that, conflict us on a day-to-day basis. And getting back with this topic, focus on why people can't take a joke anymore and shifting boundaries of public offense. This is discussion, I feel like that this is entitled. A lot of people, they get mad, they throw tantrums, they go to these owners and say, well, this person, you can't keep joking with me because I can't take it. I learned a long time. And, J Kid had a very good point here, and I'm going to share this out because I'm not going to beat around the bush. First of all, he's got a good point, DJ. You can't be in call in wrestling if you're soft. This is the truest.
That is a bombshell right there.
If you're going to be soft and you can't take a joke, especially, the biggest joke that I made that, got him over was LaFufu. I'm using that for example. Not the target, but I'm just using it as example. Oh, he got mad and pissed off and, just, cussed me all to heck. And, it gets down to that point that, I try to be this nice guy, but, eventually you're pushing that boundary.
You get broken into that zone that you don't want to go into.
You're pushing that boundary to a whole different level. Like, you need to understand that you need to be able to take a joke. I was not bullying you. I was not harassing you. I was not doing anything but trying to make you laugh and trying to make others laugh. It was a joke. So, bottom line discussion is, if you can't handle a joke, why are you in call to begin with?
Exactly. And the craziest thing to me is that gets to me about this situation is you don't know what type of scenario you could be going through in your everyday struggle. It don't matter if you're getting off work. It don't matter if you have something happen in your life, regardless of the matter. A joke can be uplifting if you accept it the right way. Everything is not going at you. sometimes you gotta laugh, live up, and enjoy the moment, because you never know when we are not going to be here for that next moment. You know what I mean, CJ? At the
Definitely.
same time, you got to appreciate what is in front of you.
Definitely know what you mean. And that's the reason why that I respect so hardly about Kevin Impact. He tells it like it is, and you can see in the comments. You know, that's why a lot of people don't want to show up to this podcast, because they can't go toe to toe and, you know, be real. And that's the main part that I love about Kevin Impact. He's real. You know, the old saying goes, I think Johnny Cash used to say this as, you know, a quote. He always said that being real gets you hated.
But here's another quote that holds values too, and this is a street term: real recognize real. And Kevin Impact's a real one.
Pretty much. And going back to this, I kind of made this a meme. And this fits right here with this, you know, crossing the line episode. And going back to this, we're going to take a deeper look into this. I'm going to try to take my banners off for a minute so that way you guys can see the full picture. Going back to the, you know, everything call episode, you know, the reason why that I made this is to get information out and, you know, to make call a better place. So if you're listening and taking my information, you know, kudos, you know, definitely take this information, soak it up, and learn. But at the same time, you know, crossing the line, you know, what is crossing the line, you know, in call? That is a good question, and that is a question that needs to be talked about on the episode. I think that, you know, crossing the line could, you know, be in these categories, and I'm going to name them. Is going to be the first category. I'm going to start with the number 5 is the number 5 one, talking about people's families, dead or alive, especially, you know, the people that can't be here that's deceased. This is definitely crossing the line. I wouldn't, you know, to me, I don't like that. And I'll tell you why, DJ, and I'll let you get on to this point. I got a lot of dead relatives or deceased loved ones that I don't really want them to be mentioned inside of call. It shouldn't be a, you know, you shouldn't mention somebody, especially in a promo, that is a dead relative or a family member. That is a big no-no. You know, getting back on this episode, you know, talking about, you know, people's dead families, you know, there was a huge reason why that I put this as my number 5th one. And this is my top 5. One, you know, we'll go back to Thea Hale. You know, I think it was on the podcast we did with No Ring, No Rules with, you know, Thea Hale.
It was either No Ring, No Rules, or it was the barriers and other episode that I think we did. We touched on that Thea Hale subject in that one too.
But going back on that is the Thea Hale thing. She said and quoted, "Think about what you post on the internet, because on the other side is a human being." Same thing in call, guys. Think about what you say behind a keyboard when you're doing these promos, or when you're doing, you know, video promos or even audio promos, because somebody, you know, there's a lot of people that I notice in call that is not built for call because they take things the wrong way. I just feel like that some people need to understand boundaries. You know, that is a huge topic too, that, you know, you got to know when to say when and just drop the line. But, you know, especially talking about people's families, you know, that is a big no-no and it shouldn't be in call. And definitely agree with what, you know, Kevin Impact saying, always respects folks' family members, even if they aren't dead. Always, this is call, not ghetto. And this is the truth. You know,
Agreed.
this
Agreed
ain't
with that one, Kevin. In fact,
you know, my favorite movie, I don't know if you guys watched it, Blood In, Blood Out, where they, it's kind of like a Mexican gang where they go, Vocos Locos Forever, SA. We ain't like that where we're going up in the street and, just, gang banging. But, going back on this topic and why this is so important, there's a lot of people that loves their family, whether they dead or alive, and it shouldn't be talked about, period, point blank. And I kind of feel like that this topic is the top 5. And why I say this is because this is the most boundaries of crossing the line, period, point blank. Shouldn't be allowed. If you allow this stuff, you're probably allowing pedophiles in your EFED too, because you don't got no boundaries and no respect for people. But at the same time, I'm just going to tell it like it is. Can you joke about anything? That's the main question, especially people's family members. Don't joke about that, because that's not a joke. That's taking something that don't need to be in call and pushing it to the whole different level. And DJ, I'm going to turn it over to you and tell us what you think about talking about people's dead family members, dead or alive, and why it shouldn't be talked about in call, in promos, and why you think it's crossing the line.
this kind of falls in a perspective for me with my other biggest pet peeve of call. Family members should not be excluded, period. It should not be no reason why a family member should be involved in the promo at all. Even the fact of I've had this code that I always live by: women and children should be off limit. That right there is probably my number one golden rule going into the rules and regulations that any EPA should have. Women and children should be off limits. Especially they can't handle themselves like we do. It's a guaranteed reason behind it. Same thing with the dead relatives. If you bring up a dead relative, you should be excommunicated out the chat immediately for that. That shouldn't be in call at all. Like you said, CJ, there's levels to this that needs to be put in place for the call community to understand, because everybody is not built strong. Everybody is not built to withstand the stuff that's coming. At the same time, think before you react to the situation. Don't come into a situation where, oh, y'all overdoing it, this, that, and the third, but at the same time, everybody else is laughing. Everybody else is enjoying themselves. Ha ha, he he. All that good stuff. Why are we not able to have butthurt individuals that think they're entitled to special treatment? CJ, I don't get it. I don't get it nowadays. It feels like the car community done got some people in the car community got soft. They get in their feelings. Why are we in our feelings? If we are in our feelings, why are you in call to begin with? This is why the dead weight process is so much easier when you show your true intentions. You know what I mean, CJ?
Yeah, I definitely know what you mean.
Because in most cases, why are we sitting up here feeling like, oh, a joke is coming my way, this, that, and the third? Oh, if you couldn't take the joke and you knew the joke was coming, why are you not throwing jokes back at us? This is the thing that kills me. There are some people who know how to throw it back, And then there's some people that get all in their feelings and don't want to say nothing. I mean, it's a give and take relationship. If you can't take it, why are you in it? Pressure comes from all angles. It's how you deal with it. But that is the biggest thing I can't stand. Talking about people's families dead or alive. That kind of grinds my gears because I see that in majority of car feds chats, and nobody don't want to see when it gets real, and they see that person going to that whole different mode. That's when things start to feel like it's not car related. It comes in the IRL. You attack somebody's self belief and their family. You don't do that. And that's why I'll leave it at that.
Now, getting to another topic, if we're both done talking about this topic, I feel like that this needs to be talked about too. We're getting on to crybabies, whining, can't joke around others scenario. And the reason why that this is crossing the line that I think when you joke around with somebody and they can't take a joke and they want to whine and cry and, get up on all in their feelings, like DJ said, it's like, dude, you understand that, first of all, this is called. This is where, we joke around and have fun with our characters on WWE 2K26, and we don't try to make it a big scene. When people start doing this, that's when their toxic colors come out. And what I mean by colors is they reveal themselves by the way they act. And they, like DJ said, they get up all in their feelings. They cry about it. They whine about it. They can't take a joke because, that joke is pretty much, to them, it's like you cross the line with them, and in reality, you didn't even do nothing but joke. You only try to bring the fun side out of call. But at the same time, we got people that does this. And, it's sad to, be around a community that does this, that, just don't want to have jokes no more, that can't handle jokes, that are, Kevin Impact said it best in the chat here with, J Kid. He said that, they soft. I can't. Let me try to find it right here. You can't be in call and in wrestling if you're soft. Biggest thing right here that, fits this narrative. And, for the people that, can't take a joke and literally get all up in their feelings about it, the best advice I can give you is go get some help. Like whether you got to talk to a therapist or something, try to go get you some help. Because the reason why that I named this the top four, especially, the crybabies, the whiners, and can't joke around people. They the people that gets up and all in their grill thinking they serious. They got serious feelings. Like they can't joke around. They want others to be like them to where it's like pretty much what I'm trying to say is like, oh, I don't want you guys to joke around no more. I'm taking the fun out of this because my feelings got hurt. This is where that I see that this is a problem. You take your fun away from others because of you being a crybaby, a whiner, and you can't take a joke around others. Pretty much self-explanatory. And the reason why that I feel like not only this is crossing the line with call, but in wrestling, you got to understand they joke in wrestling. It is called ribbing. In the real business, they do the same thing. They do jokes. If you can't joke around, then like, J Kid said, why are you even in call or in wrestling if you can't joke around? Point blank. And I feel like that, some of these people don't need to be in call, period. And And here's the truest comment here. I'm going to say this is right here. I love this comment by, J Kid, because he puts it right on point. He says, imagine a wrestler being in a rivalry with another wrestler, and if he quits wrestling because he got a promo cut on him, where would he be? And if you can't take it, retire and get out. True statement. If you can't take, the old saying goes, I'm pretty sure you guys heard the old saying, if you can't take the heat, get out of the kitchen.
Mm-hmm.
So if you can't take the heat of somebody joking with you, why are you, first of all, trying to start this nonsense and kid shit when you need to grow up and act like adult? I think there's an old saying, and DJ can agree with you, that hits right down to its core. Act your age and not your IQ.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of people says that. Because there's a lot of people, they want to be a big grown adult, but at the same time, it's going back to what, J Kid is saying and DJ saying. You can't take a joke. You're showing that, your age is not your IQ level. In other words, you're not a fully grown adult. You're still a kid. You're still taking it offensive because somebody's joking around with you and you can't get along with that person, or you can't, you get all in your feelings. You get up all in your feelings because, I can't do this because they keep joking about the same thing. Here's the thing that really gets me down to my core about this. COL is supposed to be about fun. It is supposed to be about having fun, telling stories, even joking around with others, making others laugh. But here's the problem with people. You take the girl in this picture. This is a good thing for what she says. She says, not funny, ambilism, crossing the line, real conversations. When you have a joke and that joke is, pretty much gone too far and people can't take it, that's on them. You're allowed to joke. You're allowed to, try to make others laugh and have humor in this. Because if you look about it, the wrestling business is about humor. It's about, having fun. It's about, telling stories, like I said. But at the same time, I'm trying to get this out because I'm going to let DJ go into this topic. I'm trying to not take up much time. But at the same time, if you can't joke and if you can't accept criticism, it goes back to constructive criticism. If you can't accept that, then I don't know what to tell you. Truth, point blank. DJ, why do you think this is crossing the line between the crybabies whining and can't take a joke around others? Why do you think that crosses the line sometimes in COL?
Here's the whole thing, and I'm going to break this down in 3 separate parts. The biggest factor of this, how was the person in the time growing up? Was he bullied in school? Was he picked on? Was he literally a target for being joked on, or whatever the case may be? That could be one of the hugest things that determines if you can't take a joke. Because the one thing I can't stand is being bullied, being picked on, being accused, being joked on. And then sometimes you gotta adapt yourself to being more molded to taking the pressure. Back when I was in my young age, I was having all that on me. But guess what? Being around a military uncle, like my military uncle and family, kind of made me rose to the occasion. Sometimes maybe your family has to be that factor to mold you. Sometimes being around a group of individuals who do joke a lot, like we do, mold you to being better. But at the same time, are you going to be a crybaby bitch and not take the joke? Even if we're doing the same joke repetitively. you should be able to laugh and throw it back at us. That brings me to number 2. Some people in call can't handle the pressure that is being thrown at them. Why are you in call if you can't handle the pressure? Pressure is supposed to build you to being a more stronger, more wiser person.
And I definitely agree with this. Kevin Impact made the truth about this. He said, if this show is about you, Ron Storm, then I said, yeah, to all. And Ron, you need to switch it up or get out of call, bud. True statement. I can't argue the facts. True statement.
Right there. There it is.
There it is. True, being real. That's the reason why I love, J Kid. He's real. A lot of people can't take his constructive criticism. A lot of people has called him for years. We take this back, DJ. A lot of people has called me a pedophile. They called and we saw that how true that not was, but they also lied about Kevin Impact. They also lied about me. I mean, look at these people. They mad because, the truth finally came out and it clicked together for a common bond of unity, and this unity can't break because of the haters.
And the funny thing about it is this. No matter what these people say, no matter what they do in life, no matter what you throw out there, you don't know the real person behind the scenes. And if you don't know what the real person is doing to better the community that he's in, why are you even targeting that person? You're only making yourself look like a nice because you are assuming shit without getting the facts. That same term holds volumes in everyday scenarios. I mean, if Ryan was built to be in this industry, in this car industry, he should know damn well in real life scenarios, you got to learn to take a joke. Wrestling has comic aspects. These comic aspects shows a lot. It makes you laugh. It makes you smile. It may give you a moment that you can cherish forever. At the same time, if you're not willing to accept it, why are you even doing the things you're doing? I mean, let's be real. How many times have we gone through this scenario over and over and over again with certain individuals that can't take a joke? A lot, CJ. And I'm starting to feel like like talking ain't gonna be much. My actions are gonna show. Everybody's chat should be humored every once in a while. But you got the floor, CJ.
Now, if DJ answered this, we're going to move on to the next question. I want to make sure that you answered this completely before we go on to the next topic. And this topic is going to hit a lot of nerves. Talking about people with disabilities, why this is a big no-no. I'm gonna touch on this because I kind of feel like that this is important. When you send an audio to somebody and deny it, I'm going to use that for an example, and it's your voice, and you need to go to another person and say, oh, I didn't say that. You're caught up in the act. It's your voice. You can't get out of it. Especially when you said if you had a brain, maybe maybe if you had a brain, you would have would think, and you're not knowing that person has a disability. And that person came and told me that you was making fun of his disability, where it was a learning disability or something of that nature. And you literally targeted him. That's when it becomes a problem. That's a big no-no. You don't do that. And the reason why that this is crossing the line, disabilities and, the way people are, and what I'm saying by this is don't judge a book by its cover. You know, people are built different. You know, there's people like me and DJ that can talk, but there's people also that is far different. There's people that can't even speak that has to get a translator that does what's it called? I'm trying to think of the thing.
The voice box.
No, it's not the voice box. It's like for deaf people.
Sign language.
Sign language, yeah, like sign language. You know, telling people, you know, what they're saying. And if you don't know sign language, you ain't gonna understand what they're saying to you. It's like, you know, they can't talk back because they're deaf. They can't hear. You know, and the reason why that I put this as number 3 for crossing the line is, you know, I wouldn't want anybody to talk about people with disabilities. Not in TNA. If I catch it, you're out. You know, I hate that. And the reason why that I say this, because many people don't know, but I have a disability, which is a LD, learning disability. And I would hate, you know, especially somebody make fun of me over, you know, having the LD. And saying this, and the reason why that I think that this is the top 3 with cross the line is pretty simple. Don't need to be in call in general. You don't need to be talking about people, you know, the way people are. If people has a disability, you need to keep it out of call. Pretty much simple.
I feel like this right here, CJ, should probably be a golden rule put in chats moving forward. You talk about somebody's disability, bye, automatic out of here. And I feel like that should be one of the top things in everybody's rules and regulations. You talk about family or talk about somebody's disability, you're out of here. I'm being dead honest, CJ, because that right there tells you a lot about a person and how they go about their everyday life. When the joke turns into something out of line, it gets personal. And that should be barred from chat. I'm glad you did bring this as number 3, CJ.
And going back to this, before I let you have this, you know, with people with the disabilities, there's another thing that I want to add to this that is very important. You know, like I said, going back to Thea Hell, how would you feel if you had a disability and somebody talked about you? You got to think on 2 sides of the plate here. You can't always think of one side of the boat and think, you know, your boat's always going to make that finish line, because in reality, you know, life can happen. It could turn out to where you have a car wreck or something like that that can make you have that disability. Then you're going to regret what you said to that person online. Karma has a fun way of turning things. So think about what you post on the internet, especially because I'm telling you guys, this is the God's honest truth. You know, just like, you know, one of my favorite cartoon things, it was called Boomerang. It had a good quote about this, and you know where I'm taking it. You know, like Boomerang, it's always going to come back to you. Just like karma, it's always going to come back to you what you do to people. So you need to think and literally say to yourself, okay, how can I word this to where it's not targeting people with disabilities, and try to make it as professional as I can, you know, whether I'm a call creator, call promoter, or just being a friend, giving advice out to where it's not targeting them, you know, with the disability or, you know, mental health, whatever the case may be. You guys need to think about what you type on the other end, because it can affect people like that, like a snap of the finger. You guys need to think. You know, Thea Hale, one of my favorites in NXT, she talked about this. It pretty much self-explanatory. Think about what you say on the other side behind that keyboard, because it's a human being at the other end. And that's true. That is a human being on the other end that you're allowing yourself to, whatever you're doing. If you are making fun of people with disabilities, not saying no names, but I'm just putting this as an example. If you are, then you need to go get help. That is bullying, cyberbullying, and I don't stand
Mhm.
for that, especially targeting people with disabilities. That is a big no-no. And that's what I'm going to say about this topic. But before I switch it over to you, I'm going to share this out with Kevin Impact. J Kid here. To me, you can say anything you want, just don't attack people with disability. That is simple. That's the truth. We all need to stand up for people that targets people with disabilities. I kind of feel like that this is very important in Call. If we're going to protect Call as a brotherhood and as respect, as like the business would have been, we need to have that structure of literally telling these people, hey, you know, you do this again, you're out. I'm not putting up with it.
Mhm.
Examples
There is
like
no strikes when it comes down to this point.
pretty much. And going back to DJ, because I know DJ didn't answer this thing, but why do you feel like this is crossing the line, especially people talking about people with disabilities?
Now, here's the number one thing that I've been seeing that has gotten way out of line. And I feel like talking about people with disabilities is a huge no-no in Call. I mean, how would you feel if it was you on the other side of this whole conversation? I mean, you wouldn't like it. You'd be wanting to go fight somebody because of it. Sometimes you got to think before you react. If you know you're talking about somebody with a disability, quickly come in on this, like delete the post and come back and say sorry for what you said in that post. I mean, at least be more honest and careful with this situation, because this is one of the most touchiest things that I feel can get out of line very quick, CJ. And I mean, it can get out of line very, very quick. These things need to be noted in mostly everybody's rules and regulations and highlighted, period. There should not be anything of this nature. You bring this up, you say sorry and move on, readjust that promo, or see the exit. Because I feel like disabilities are probably the number one reason. And not only am I not saying it's bad, it's very bad to the point of I've seen individuals take it too far and it goes in a whole different direction. People will leave Call because of people doing this. This is why we have blacklists for a reason. If you see anybody doing this in Call, step up, defend that person. Be there for your Call brother and sister. And that's all I'm gonna say to that one.
Now we get on to another topic here that I want to talk about. And this is really what I see the problem is crossing the line. And I think that this needs to be a major key factor that I see in Call. A lot of people is going to like this one because they got friendships that's been broken over people's jealousy, over somebody being part of somebody's show. And, you know, here's the thing that I see over this, you know, breaking friendships up over jealousy. Here's what I see as a topic here that literally gets down to its core. If you're going to be jealous over somebody having a better show, over somebody being successful, and then you go around saying, oh, I want to be positive and Call, and, you know, I want to be great for Call, and I'm, you know, trying to make Call positive without negativity, and then you do this shit, you're not doing anything for Call. You're being two-faced. You're basically saying one thing and a complete opposite of the other. And this right here is the biggest peeve of mine of crossing the line. If you are jealous over somebody, you know, whether they have a better, like I said, a better show, better podcast, you know, better promos, better, you know, things that they do that's, you know, making you as jealous as a hater, then you are the problem. It don't fix the issue. You are causing this thing to not be fun anymore. And the reason why that I say, you know, breaking friendships up over jealousy is real important and it crosses the line is because, you know, you take a look for an example. You know, I kind of feel like this is a major key factor in everything, not just call, you know, even in relationships. If you're jealous over somebody, you know, having a wife or a significant other, you know, I'm just naming, you know, examples out. I'm not targeting anybody, but I'm just telling the truth. This is the biggest factor that I think that is crossing the line. You know, we all should be as a unity supporting each other through call, building each other up instead of tearing each other down. You know, Thea Hale spoke on that. You know, we need to be building each other up to a positive side of call rather than saying negative comments over the internet behind in another chat to somebody else that is making you look bad in the process when people find you out. And it's only going to lead you down a road of losing friendships and people getting friendships because they didn't do nothing to you. That's what I'm trying to say for that. That's why I think that it's crossing the line. But for his DJ, I'm going to let you explain why this is crossing the line, breaking friendships over jealousy, and why this is important to call.
Now, I say this as a whole. It breaks up friendships because, let's be real, this person could be the most sought after person in call, but at the same time, his beliefs may be different from yours. And that's one thing that can be a huge factor. You don't know what this person may have gone through. You don't know what this person could be doing in the community to make his name feel relevant. But at the same time, jealousy plays a huge role in a lot of factors. And that jealousy turns into sheer hatred at some times. Like, you wonder why we do these little mandatory check-ins with people to see how they're doing. You never know what could be happening. Mental health issues, whatever the case may be. It's always you got to do mandatory check-ins to check in on your friends. I do this on a constant basis to make sure my friends and family are good. And sometimes you have to do this to be more mindful. If you're checking in with them, that's how you know you have a real friend. And CJ can agree with that as a whole. Sometimes mandatory check-ins are essential. They're critical. They're vital. Because if they don't see you checking in, that turns into jealousy. And jealousy turns into, oh, you have favoritism for these people. Not to say that we play favoritism, CJ. At the same time, you have to be able and willing to accept certain things. Because that jealousy, that's a huge factor. If it turns jealous, then we know their true intentions. They like to stay around you because you're doing X, Y, and Z, and they can benefit off that, or they can use that against you. That's all I'm gonna say to that one. Hold on, I'll be right back, CJ. I got something I got to bring to the table.
I think that this is important too, and I'll let you go, DJ. I'll take over from here. I think this is important too, over the friendships over jealousy. It goes back with, people with disabilities, can't take a joke around others. And also the main, fifth one, talking about people's dead family members. This is, to me, I was listening to one of my, favorite wrestlers when I was, in the locker room, Shane Douglas, one of my all-time favorites, him talking about ECW. And this sets a prime example, especially for the call business and, the pro wrestling business as well. Listen to his stories and the friendships he's made over the years in ECW with, big names like Sabu, Tommy Dreamer, Raven, Rhino, Taz, all these names in professional wrestling. That's what we need to be doing in call. We need to be setting an example and setting our legacy to not only make friends, but also build a positive environment for call, protecting call like we share a passion for call. And a lot of people don't want to do that, and I will explain why. They want their jealousy to override them. They want their hate to override them. They want their toxicity to override them. And the bad part about that is you can be so bitter. You could be bitter for a little while, and it'll catch up with you eventually. Trust me. You can pull this shady stuff as long as you want, because it's going to catch up with you. Like I said, before, karma's got a funny way of coming right back to you. It's like a boomerang. You throw that boomerang, and I guarantee that boomerang is going to come right back at you. Same thing with call. Be careful what you do or say to people. And, getting back on this episode, I think this needs to be shared out too. I did a thing to where, let me pull this image up and let me show you guys why I set a good example for this. Okay, guys, can you see this? I want to make sure everybody can see this. Taking the fun out of call, hurt feelings versus the internet. Cancel culture comes from comedy. We got an examples here. This is the examples of negative comments that could make outrage. You need to think about stuff when you post stuff on the internet. This is prime examples. This is nobody, we ain't saying that these are real accounts. This is like people that are not real people, but they got accounts here is what I'm saying. I don't know the word or terminology for it. I think it's nonfiction or fictional. I think it's fictional if I got that right. But anyways, let's look at Karen. I'm so sick of call podcasts. Their jokes talks about my bird's beak condition were deeply offensive and obscene. It's not funny when it's real life. These needs to stop. Cancel call. Here's the thing that I really see what's wrong with Karen. Karen can't take a joke. She don't need to be in call, even though that she talked about her bird's beak, and this is a call like a bird. Same thing in call wrestling. If you're talking about somebody like this on Twitter and on post and trying to target them, you're the problem. You're starting the drama. You're starting the negativity. You need to look at yourself. My favorite singer, Ice Cube, that is on next Friday, he sings a song that is so valuable to this day. It says, "Jiggity, check yourself or you wreck yourself." And there's a reason why that I love Ice Cube, because he's real. He's a real OG. Check yourself or you wreck yourself. Same thing in call. Check yourself or you wreck yourself, because one thing you can say on the internet can come back to bite you. What you say on the internet will be like a revolving door. It always comes back to you. So think about what you say to that person, or even you tagging in that person, or maybe it's not even on this internet side. Maybe it's on a DM. Think about what you say to people. And I'm going to go check the comments now as we're waiting for DJ. Definitely agree with this right here for J Kid. Let me go back to where Mark said first. Mark says, my biological mother is partly deaf and someone with disabilities. I will never condone that. And I agree with Mark. I definitely agree. Defend your loved ones. That is the main topic that I want to talk about, because at the same time, we're here to have fun. We're here to escape from reality, from the things that's happening in the world that don't need to be in call in general. And I definitely agree with you, Mark, on that. 100%, speak your mind. That's what I like about you. Keep doing you. J Kid, of course, saying you're agreeing. You're not doing anything good for call. You want to be jealous? Be jealous. Don't break a friendship over a fucking video game. Here's another good one. Mark's putting in the valuable work. He's telling the truth. Don't break a friendship over a video game, over something that you got butthurt about because, maybe prime examples to this. Maybe it's because that you was part of the train and you screwed up somewhere along the line. Or maybe, you said something about somebody that literally cost you a friendship, or you literally made somebody's life too personal to where they don't want to talk to you no more. You got to be careful what you say on the internet, because people, we here to make friends and make the positive side and leaving a positive legacy in call. That's what it's all about. But if you take this out of context and are butthurt, you're the problem, because you can't handle truth. And I'm speaking truth right behind the mic. I'm speaking actual facts, pulling actual facts out. And I definitely agree with Kevin Impact, because they don't care. Definitely agree. Definitely agree with the greedy shit. Definitely agree with that. We're going to talk about also that I feel like that needs to bring up. Before we get onto the topic, and here's the thing that I want to get to. Austin Ace Carter, put this right in the chat, and kudos to you, Austin, for that's the truth right there. Honestly, CJ, people take jokes to heart and think they are being targeted. That's the true thing to what Austin's saying. But at the same time, you got to watch out for people like this. They don't even know how to be in character, and what I mean behind character is in kayfabe reference, meaning they don't know how to act like a wrestler. They act like a kid more than a wrestler. Sums that up. Now, we get back to this, and I know DJ's got a lot that he wants to do on his end, but I want to get back to this, why this is, taking fun out of call, hurt feelings versus the internet. Going back to Karen Smith, what she said, talking about call podcasts about her bird's beak condition were deeply offensive. It's not funny when it's real life. This needs to stop. When you're taking things too far, and then it says, I'm personally offended post. When you're taking things too far like that, that's when it becomes a problem. You're also got to take under consideration too at this concept why it was, for example, her bird's beak making, why was it, making fun of, what was the whole joke about it? But at the same time, if you can't handle a joke and handle what we call in the business called ribbing, which means an actual joke, goes back to what Kevin Impact said. You don't need to be in wrestling or in call general. Pretty self-explanatory. And I know DJ, he's got probably sent me on Facebook. I'm going to look at. But DJ, what do you think about what you're seeing here, taking the fun out of call, hurt feelings versus the internet? What do you think that you?
It's a lot of things that this touches on in volumes, because people get so hurt in their feelings over the smallest little thing that is said on the internet, or it's a very targeted situation that probably bothers them in their life. But some people need to scroll past these things if it offends them. You know, there's a thing that you can just scroll past it and go about your day instead of you looking at it saying, oh, this is offensive, this, that, and the third. You're in your feelings at that point. And you don't need to be in the chat if you know we're going to be doing this on a constant basis. And
So
that's all I'm going to say to that one.
Going back on what John says, he says, everything got called. You guys crossed the line again. My cousin was a avian caretaker, and he was triggered by your jokes about winging, clipping. It's irresponsible and lack empathy. Do better. When you become that triggered, especially putting that on the internet, especially if something bothers you and you're seeing somebody, Kevin Impact brought a good up thing. Let me share this because I want to get on, I don't want to get on a rant, but he's got something that I want to talk about as a topic. If something offends you, stay off the internet. It's not for you. If a show bothers you.
Exactly.
Don't watch it. I mean, self-explanatory. If you are feeling that, you need to respond back over us telling the truth, I mean, by all means, but we're going to be positive on our side. We're going to do what's best for Colin. You guys can, do whatever, but I'm just saying in context, you need to learn to take a joke. And the thing is, before I go to DJ's thing about this other topic, is learn what it says. Offense is a choice. Call is a vibe. They can't take a joke. We can't take whining. Let's keep call uncanceled. In other words, let's keep going. Let's keep it going to where it's not going to bother us. It's going to bother them because they can't cancel. That's what their whole agenda is. They trying to cancel people out of call. They trying to cancel people from doing call. They trying to cancel people from having the passion behind call and what a beauty it is. That's why that I am literally putting this out there, and the information is legit, guys. You guys can take a look at this. Feel free to get the information. That's why we do these podcasts, is to get you guys educated on what the do's and don'ts are. Pretty much self-explanatory. Now, definitely want to say this before we go into this next topic, because DJ brought a good thing to play here. This next topic is definitely going to ring some ears. So if you guys want to see it, I want that chat to comment in the words of Stone Cold, hashtag hell yeah. I want those hashtags to be light up in the chat. But also, we're going to read the last one here. By the time you guys fill that chat up with hashtags hell yes, we're going to be taking on to the last thing. I used to love this show, but the last episode was pure hate speech. You can't just say whatever you want and hide behind comedy, unsubscribing. When you unsubscribe, you pretty much tell on yourself. You're pretty much supporting the show, and you're not really, to me, I take it as, you are what it's called moral superiority, which means you think that your ego is far above anybody else, as you care what anybody else thinks, and you don't think about anybody else but yourself. You put yourself over than anybody else. That is a big no-no. And I tell the reason why that I say this. The reason why that I say this is that this is the big no-no factor. When you put yourself over everybody else and you literally have that egotistical mindset of saying, for example, I'm going to use DJ for example here. Let's say if me and DJ was arguing and DJ took a joke at me and I couldn't handle that joke, right? So I went back to, somebody like Kevin Impact, JTV owner, and I went to him and say, you know what, DJ was talking about my mom and, he was saying this, and this, and this. And when Kevin Impact goes back to DJ and asks his DJ, did you say that? And DJ says, I didn't say that. And DJ shows proof of him not saying it. It's going to fall back on me. blaming him for something he didn't do. Same thing what you guys do behind the internet. Think about what you type, because it will come back to you, and karma is definitely going to eat you out of the truth. That's the whole point of this. When karma does, boy, you guys are going to take a huge fall, and maybe it's going to cost you guys some point down the line that you can't get in any e-feds, and you're going to cancel yourself. Truth. Just hold that, and keep that check and don't cash it, because that's the truth.
Mm-hmm.
Now, getting back on to the real topic here. Definitely want to get on with this. And I know Mark and Austin's put down in the chat, hell yeah. We got hell yeah chats on. But before we go on to this, guys, what do you think about for a future episode if, I can get a hold of Kevin Impact to bring him on Everything Call? And we let Kevin Impact, me and DJ and Kevin Impact sat down with Kevin Impact himself, and we talk about, truth feelings versus the internet to him. You guys put that down in the comments. Let us know. And if this channel, I'm going to make a goal asset. Don't know if this is going to be, if we get at least 50 likes on this channel, 50 likes.
Within this video.
And we will bring Kevin Impact on episode 7 for Everything Call. So you guys are got a goal to set 50 likes. And then Kevin Impact comes on episode 7 to tell his truths about hurt feelings versus the internet. Keep that in mind. But right now, you guys posted hell yeah in the chat. So now we're going to turn it over to the next stage. Bullies, the pros and cons. Here's where this episode is so important. And, bullying has no winners. Choose kindness, be the change. Okay, the pros and cons to this. Pros builds resilience. Victims can develop strength and resilience from overcoming challenges. Develop empathy. Experience bullying can lead to greater empathy for one in similar situations. Encourage some people to speak up and seek help, improving communications with stronger communication, personal growth. Overcoming bullying can lead personal, stronger sense of self. Create change. Many who experience bullying become advocates and can work safer in kinder environments. Then you got the cons to this. Emotional damage. Bullying can lead to anxiety, depression, low self-esteem, and long-term emotional effects. Victims have trouble concentrating, leading to lower grades and loss of interest in school or even in call. Bullying can cause victims to withdraw friends, activities, and social opportunities and withdraw from call also. Bullying can lead to physical issues and health. And then the long-term effects of bullying can last until adulthood, affecting relationships, careers, even mental health. So now, with the pros and cons of this as I read out, I'm going to let DJ break every one of them down. And he's going to be the doctor of terminology as the doctor of thugonomics. He's going to be the doctor of terminology here. So DJ, break this down to us, the pros and cons of bullies, and especially the categories it gives us with builds resiliency, develops empathy, stronger communication, personal growth, creative change for the pros side. The cons, emotional damage, impact academy, social isolation, physical harm, and long-term effects. You got the floor, brother.
Now here's the way I see things. And I'm going to be totally honest with everybody here. And I know we all agree with this statement 110%. I cannot stand bullies. I don't tolerate them whatsoever. And the reason why is because that sight of a bully brings you down in a way where you don't know how to recover from it until you get around the right individual that'll help you get through that. There is no reason for bullying whatsoever. And I know CJ may agree with that, and everybody in the chat may agree with it. There's no need for bullying in car. And at the same time, I feel like bullying has been a staple for some of these individuals in car where, oh, you think you can bully the owner to get your way? No, 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 no. That's why you're in the position you're in. You can't see past bullying past people to get your way. Bullies are the number one downfall of car communities. If y'all see them, point them out. And it's a psychological thing. Mentally, physically, it drains you. It puts a strain on a lot of things. You can't even get creative if you're being bullied. Some people don't see this. Some people don't recognize they're doing it, but it's there. I mean, but I'm gonna break it down more in a reality check podcast, so stay tuned for it. Because there's gonna be some things I'm gonna say that is going to be groundbreaking.
Back on this, you know, if you explain that, we're going to move on to the.
Yep. I had to take a phone call, CJ. So if I'm not back, I'll catch you on the flip side.
You do what you got to do, brother. Now we're going to get into the taking fun out of the call. They can't take a joke. It's just a wrestling promo. Lot up. It's work. They can't handle the heat. Worked up. Banned call drama. Justified. They went too far. Acceptable tone. Reporting this post. No, it's not a joke. Here's where this can lead to bigger things. You know, we take the EFED Wrestling League, you know, for example, what they say. And I'm going to try to pull this up. Now we get back to the thing. You know, we start with the comments. Absolutely ridiculous. It's a worked out sport. People are too soft. Then we get to user 2. This just isn't a work. It's toxic. Good on them for speaking up. Another day, another softie reporting my promo to the office. Grow up. You know, this is why call is dying. Let them cook. Crossing the line is not cooking. It's bad storytelling. You know, this is the reason why that a lot of people can't take jokes. You know, they want to go too far. Like I said, this is examples that I put that that themselves they can't. They get, in other words, they get their feelings in the bunch and they don't really act their age. And going to the last thing here on everything call, we're going to talk about a subject that I feel like that is most entitled to this. Now we get into the thing that I'm going to talk about. And this is going to be a really good thing that I'm going to talk about here. And I think that this is going to hit a lot of people down on its core here. So I'm trying to load it real quick. We're going to take this as an example. Be better in call. And why I say be better than call. At least your creativity in WWE 2K26. Custom Federation, Aether Wrestling Alliance, AWA, Creators Workshop, Teammates Make the Dream Work, Let's Build Our Brand, Ring Allies, Real Friends. So in other words, what it's talking about here, let's build something that not only will make friends, but also let's build something that will leave us, especially if one of us passes away, will leave a legacy that we can tell for generations to come. And, better wrestling, better promotions, better friends. Join our Fred, let's build our brand. Join our Fred, compete together, rise together. Create your legacy, build your promotion, make your allies. Share creations, join online feds, play with friends. So here's where I see that this is important. With everybody that is in call, we're here to make this as a unity. This is the biggest thing that I see that needs to be done in call. Don't know if it ever will be accomplished, but this is my goal. I can only do it, because of my choice to do it. Everybody else has different choices. They follow their own path. But here's how to be better in call. And I'm going to break it down in 5 simple things. One of those things is let me go ahead and save this. I'm pretty much doing this as we speak. So let me go ahead and put this here. Put this here. Here's how we be better in call. We're going to move over. Master the Mat, WWE 2K26, Call Academy. I'm going to take you guys through Call Academy. 5 things to be a better in call. Here's what you got to have. The first is unique movesets, but I'm going to add something else. You need to know how to learn how to cut a promo and take a promo and learn the ring IQ, which means the bumps, front bumps, flip bumps, face bumps, running ropes. You got to learn how to do those before you can do the call industry. And here's the reason why that I say that this is important out of everything that me and DJ talked about. Then you can move on to the 5 topics of what it says here. 5 things to be better in call. You got unique movesets, create signature styles, don't be generic cloned. Detail attire, master layers and textures for standout gear. Engage backstory, develop a compelling character and lore. Social engagement, join Fed promotions and collaborate. Listen to that last part, guys. Collaborate. That means work with others. That means do not go online and talk bad about others' companies saying that you're going to make sure that you're going to shut them down, this, that, and the third. That's making you look bad in the process because you are mad because somebody else is doing better than you. Goes back to what I'm saying. We're here to tear each other, not to tear each other down, but to build each other up. And the last part is showcase your work. Share creations online and learn from peers, which means learn from people that's going to help you in call to be better. And, this is a true statement. I will tell this on everything, call here. The true statement about this is when I was doing my character as CJ Mondo on 2K26, no, this ain't no lie. This is 100% legit. You could cash this with the check. When I started, starting to get into the PvP world, I didn't know what I was doing. So we had what we would call a tryout match. you know, kind of like, you know, to see where I am, you know, PvP wise. To be honest, I didn't know I was good at PvP. I doubted myself. And going back on this is sometimes doubt can be your biggest fear of holding you back. Could be your biggest fear of breaking away from people that are telling you, oh, you don't need to be around them. They this, that. And sometimes you got to quit doubting and literally go for what you want to accomplish. Whether it'll be being a champion, being better at your own pace, you know, for AI existence, you could be, you know, a bigger name, you know, a lot of things that you can better yourself in Call to be. That's only if it's up to you. If you do not want to choose to be better than Call, if you don't want to choose to be positive, that's on you. That lies in your legacy, not mine. I'm just going to tell that here on Everything Call. And another thing I will say before we wrap this all up into one thing is definitely want to see this happen for Call going into 2K20, WWE 2K26, and also WWE 2K27 if they make the game, but, you know, preferably 2K26. If we can better ourselves from being a better promoter, better Call creator, and especially keep these people that don't need to be in Call out, we can, you know, make friends, build rivalries, and become the legend that everybody wants to see. That everybody that, you know, tunes into our show, whether it's fans, viewers, haters, you know, whatever the case may be, you know, especially the haters are going to be your biggest motivators. That's the true statement that I'm going to tell everybody here on this Call podcast. Your haters are going to be your biggest fans. They are going to try to do everything it takes to destroy you, to bring you down, to talk bad about you, to try to do everything they can in their power to literally kill your legacy. Do not let them. That's what I learned in Call. Do not let the haters kill your legacy. But I will say this. Episode 7, I said this before. 50 likes. If we get 50 likes on episode 6, this episode, episode 7, we will bring Kevin Impact to answer him the internet over the fun out of Call and much more. Even fan engagement to where you asked him questions. Even if you want to, you know, be one of the haters and ask Kevin Impact questions face to face, you have that opportunity now. Don't go behind chats talking about us. You have that golden opportunity. But if you don't want to choose to do that, then don't even comment, because it's a waste of time. Now I'm putting stones that need to be positive in Call. I'm setting a foundation that's going to be legacied forever throughout all Call generations, throughout everything that I've done entirely in Call. I'm putting my mindset to better and bigger and better things. But anyways, I hope you guys enjoyed this podcast. I hope you enjoyed everything that we talked about. And most importantly, keep it Call, keep it in kayfabe. And most importantly, keep it real. And we will see you guys on episode 7. This has been Everything Call.